Greetings and salutations, my name is OJ as always, and welcome back to another episode of the DBD-a-thon, a series of videos where I go over every single killer in Dead by Daylight, from Trapper all the way up to the recently released Springtrap. I'll cover their lore, aka just reading their in-game bio, because I'm not a lore guy, their gameplay / power, teachable perks, design, and my favourite / least favourite cosmetics. Today, the object of obsession is a group known as the Legion, consisting of Frank Morrison, Julie Kostenko, Susie Lavoie, and Joey Cadogan. Whoops, I messed that up a few times, but I'm not going to cut that. You have to see both my successes and my failures. Speaking of successes, the gameplay you're probably seeing in the background right now is one of the funniest games I've ever actually had the experience of playing. I've never seen survivors give up so quickly. I had no idea people disliked the Legion this much. Kinda did, but that was back then. Anyways, with all of that said, let us move on to the first part of the video, which is, as always, the lore. Now, as I just said a few moments ago, when it comes to lore, don't come to me. I am not a lore guy. I'd suggest going to someone like Pixelbush, who makes really good videos on, Dead by Daylight's lore. For me, I am just going to read out the in-game bio, which, for the Legion, reads as such. Frank Morrison was 19 and had little to show for it. He'd stopped attending school after being kicked out of the basketball team for shoving a referee into the stands. Yet, Frank was a man of potential, who could light up a room despite his bleak childhood. At 6 years old, he'd been taken away from the Calgary to start a circuit of foster homes. No matter how many times he'd lash out, threw tantrums and got into fights, they'd keep moving him to new, unfamiliar houses. His last move had been 3 years prior, when his last foster dad, Clive Andrews, had picked him up from the adoption centre. They'd been on the road for 7 hours before reaching a small bungalow in Ormond. It would be the longest time they'd spend together. Clive was too busy trading checks from family services for drinks at the bar. Ormond was a small, stale place, a remote town of 6,000 inhabitants where grey winters dragged on for most of the year. Frank did everything he could to get into another adoptive family, but he changed his mind when he caught the attention of Julie, a beautiful girl who was convinced that she deserved better than a life in Ormond, and Frank, as an outsider, was her ticket out. Frank attended the parties she threw where everyone was younger than him and easily impressed, which he liked. He met the impulsive Joey, who liked to show off, and the shy and naive Susie, who was Julie's best friend. They would hang out at an abandoned lodge up Mount Ormond. Their time together was a perfect break from the boring conformity of their small, insignificant everyday lives. Frank saw it as an opportunity to shape their lack of experience into something powerful. He lined up nights of debauchery and rampage, testing their limits. Bullying, vandalism and theft were essentially their weekend plans. It came to a point where they would do anything he asked. Nothing was off limits when they put their masks on. One evening, Frank dared Joey to vandalise the store that had recently fired him. They snuck inside easily enough, as the building was supposed to be empty after closing hours, but a cleaner, who was still there, grabbed Julie as soon as she came near. Hearing her stifled cries, a dark impulse took over Frank. He rushed to her aid, knife in hand, and without hesitating, planted the blade into the cleaner's back. As the group stared at Frank in shock, he ordered them to finish the job. Joey clenched his jaw, grabbed the knife, and stabbed the bleeding man in the ribs. Susie didn't want to do it. Frank shouted at her. They had to finish what they'd started. Julie closed her eyes and slid the knife into the man's chest. She handed the wet blade to Susie. They were all in this together now. Susie stared at Julie in disbelief as Frank grabbed her trembling hands and inserted the knife deep into the man's throat. Frank told them to move fast. They mopped the blood off the floor and stashed the body in the trunk of Joey's car and drove up Mount Ormond. All four were digging in the muddy snow to dispose of the body when Frank spotted something moving through the woods. He grabbed his knife and broke from the group to check it out. The fog thickened around Frank, becoming so dense that he could soon no longer see ahead. He retraced his steps and stumbled onto an ominous trail. He followed the eerie path as if called by the darkness. Julie, Susie and Joey finished digging, but Frank was nowhere to be seen. Julie spotted his muddy footprints in the snow, and the three of them followed the trail, which took them deeper into the woods. When Julie, Susie and Joey did not return home that night, their parents thought they'd run away with Frank. Each family came up with a different theory. The mood in the town changed, however, when a body was found by an abandoned lodge up Mount Ormond. Their story ends in a really weird way. Can I say that? Obviously, this is my first time properly reading it. That kind of ended weirdly. Like, okay, they found a body up... I don't know. That kind of ended anticlimactically. Anyways, the Legion's lore is obviously revolving around 4 different people, which is a change of pace compared to every single killer we've talked about thus far, which obviously has been a single individual. We don't really get much character development for any of them. I mean, Frank is clearly meant to be the main member of the Legion. I will give them props on one thing. I do like that Frank says they had to finish what they'd started, even though it was him who had made the first blow. He decides to kind of push his actions onto the rest of them in a very manipulative manner. If it wasn't for Frank, they would not be in the situation they were currently in. He is the region? He is the reason the Legion exist as they are. Because, I mean, there's obviously, I forgot to mention, there are comics actually for the Legion that further develop their stories, etc. If you are interested in the Legion's story, I'd recommend picking them up. I haven't read them myself, to no one's surprise, but apparently they are quite solid, all things considered. I mean, as solid as a book tie-in with a video game that's constantly updating can be, right? It's like them Fortnite, the Fortnite comics with Batman in them and stuff. But yeah, this is good enough lore. I like that it kind of... I feel like if you could improve upon it, I would say more explaining who the other members of the Legion are. Like, you get a good idea of who Frank is, but I mean, what can you say about Joey? Really, like, just from this, obviously, just from their in-game bio, right? What can you really say about Joey? Besides what they already tell you, right? It's okay. It's not the best lore that I've had to read off for these videos, and it's fine. I think that's probably the reason why they have their own comics, to further flesh out... Yes, definitely the reason why they have their own comics, to further flesh out each individual member of the group. The only thing I remember is that Susie's a lesbian. That's it. That's all I really know about Susie. She's shy and that she's a lesbian. One of the 2 confirmed gay characters in this game. The other one being David, which is, of course, as always, awesome. But anyways, with their in-game bio / lore read, we move on to their power / their gameplay. Now, before we move on to their actual gameplay and power, I forgot to mention during the intro, is a fun fact. According to the Dead by Daylight stats tracker, the recently released one, Legion is actually my second most played killer. I'll tell you who my most played is once we get to him. Well, that's technically a clue, right? A him instead of a her. Though, if I remember rightly, the ratio of male to female killers is like, you know, obviously more in favour for males. Anyways, speaking of the Legion's gameplay / power, it's called Feral Frenzy, which, upon pressing the power button, breaks them out into a sprint where they move, like, you know, decent amount faster. I don't know the exact numbers, but hey ho, they move faster. And when in Feral Frenzy, they get access to 2 things, a Feral Vault and a Feral Slash. Feral Vault makes it so that the Legion can actually vault over pallets or windows, similar to how like a survivor would. And the Feral Slash is similar to a normal basic attack, but when injured or when hitting a survivor, it injures them and applies the Deep Wound status effect, which makes it so that if you don't heal yourself within a certain amount of time when outside of chase, you will immediately drop dead on the floor. Being hit by, you know, the Feral Slash increases or fills the power gauge for the Legion back to full, and also triggers Killer Instinct on any survivors within the terror radius of the Legion who are not currently suffering from a deep wound, basically making it so you can injure a survivor, deep wound them, and then run to the next one, injure them again. And for each survivor hit, the Legion gets a bonus bit of move speed up to a maximum of 0.8 m/s. I don't know what the numbers mean. What do the numbers mean? Mason! Anyways, sorry. If you manage to hit all 4 feral slashes, you are able to down a survivor immediately, which obviously emphasizes, we get our words out here, hitting every single survivor that you possibly can. However, if you hit a survivor that you've already hit without it being the 5th hit, or miss, you will cancel your power, and they enter this weird state where they like groan and they go, ah, you know, for 3 seconds. Makes them far slower as well when they're sort of recovering. This power is fine. It's a fine enough power. You are going to have everyone injured at all times, which is a good thing, you know. Having survivors injured all the time is good. However, they can, you know, just heal, which I don't think is particularly difficult. A lot of the time was when I use this power, right, you're obviously running from person to person, and a lot of the times you'll find like 2 people like camped on a gen together, and as a result of hitting both of them and then, you know, running off to the next person, those 2 survivors can just heal themselves, and your power just kind of renders itself pointless in a way. Like, the deep wound status effect is, you know, it's a bit of extra pressure, and it does slow them down. That's what this power does. It slows everyone down by a lot, because they're all injured, they're all deep wounded, so then they need to get rid of the deep wound, heal everyone, and then the Legion can just kind of do that all over again. So it's a trade-off of, do you stay injured to sort of, you know, speed things up and not have the game drag on for a while, or do you heal yourself to, you know, waste, but then as a result of healing yourself, you waste time doing said actions. It's kind of like a trade-off, and, you know, it's not that great. The power's just not great. It can be good because of specific perks, such as Thanatophobia. I don't know of any world where someone wouldn't be running Thanatophobia on the Legion, because they can injure people so easily. Oh, for anyone that needs a refresher, Thanatophobia makes it so that all survivors suffer penalties to any progression stuff, like repairing gens, healing, cleansing totems. They suffer a penalty to the time it takes to do those things, and it goes up to, like, I think 30% if everyone's injured. So, you know, that's quite a big deal, and with how easily the Legion can injure people, yeah, that perk is basically made for the Legion. But without it, you're relying on, you know, the slowdown from them healing, and you still need to get downs, you know. So I don't know. It's a fun power to use. There's a reason they're my second most played killer, right? But in terms of its actual potency, and in terms of their potency gameplay wise as a whole, not great. A fun buff I've thought of for a while is actually allowing, say, like Bamboozle to affect vaulting windows, and yeah, for Bamboozle to affect their vault through windows. So you quick vault. Like, can you I don't even know if that's how that works. I don't think it's affected by vaulting speed stuff like their Feral Frenzy vault, but if it was, you could have a vaulting build where you damn near immediately just teleport to the other side of the vault. I think that could actually be quite fun. I don't know how it would work with pallets though. That would be crazy to see, just seeing the Legion teleport over a pallet because they're that fast. But yeah, otherwise they're just kind of okay. They're fine. Their power is fine. It could be better. I'm just not sure how it could be better, because it relies so much on injuring people. The one thing I am disappointed with in regards to their power is the fact that it's got nothing to do with disguises or tricking people, because in their original trailer it looked like they were being set up to be like a sort of like a like they would hide amongst the survivors as a survivor and then, you know, jump scare them, kill them, blah blah blah. Bit like Among Us. I'm not gonna make a funny joke about that, but besides my disappointment, their power is fun to use. It's just not very strong, which is actually quite a common thing in Dead by Daylight. But anyways, with their power and gameplay discussed, I'd like to move on to their teachable perks. Now, the first of their teachable perks is Discordance, with a description reading as such. Any generator within a range of 64, 96, or 128 meters, respective of the level of the perk, that is being repaired by 2 or more survivors is marked by a yellow aura. When the generator is first highlighted, Discordance triggers a loud noise notification on said generator. After the generator is no longer within range or is being repaired by just 1 survivor, the highlighted aura will linger for another 4 seconds, with flavor text reading, "Smart asses get killed. We always see to that." A quote from the Legion. This perk is pretty solid. It's a pretty good information perk. It helps you, it was quite key in preventing the gen rush meta that happened a while. I mean, gen rushing still happens now, right? But Discordance is a key player in sort of tampering or tampering, you know what word I'm trying to say, trying to prevent it in a sense. It's a pretty solid perk, not a personal favourite, because if survivors split up and, you know, all do gens individually, you don't really know. I always thought that Surveillance, the perk from the pig, was just kind of like a better version of this, because as long as a generator is regressing, you'll be able to see the aura of it if anyone touches it, which can work in tandem with like Hex Ruin or any just gen kicking build, right? But yeah, Discordance is a fine enough perk. It is good, if you want to call it that. It's decent. It's not bad, right? It's good, right? Yeah, we'll settle on good. Let me not like jump around and say, oh, it's me, it's okay. No. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Anyways, with that said, we move on to the second perk. Said second perk being Iron Maiden, with a description reading as such. Iron Maiden increases your locker search speed by 30, 40 or 50% depending on the perk level. Survivors who exit a locker suffer from the following afflictions. They will scream and reveal their location to you for 4 seconds, and suffer from the exposed status effects for 30 seconds. With flavor text reading, "This is no place for cowards." Another quote from the Legion. And, as you know, exposed makes it so you can be downed in a single hit. This perk is a joke perk. It's a gimmick perk. It's funny, but it is a joke. It is a gimmick. The exposed status effect is always a scary thing, but how often nowadays are survivors really getting in lockers outside of those who use, like, flashbang? And no, I can't think of any other perks. Actually, maybe chemical trap, I think you have to get in a locker for as well, but who's using chemical trap? At least flashbang, you know, people still kind of use that, right? But yeah, this is a gimmick perk. It's funny, right? You could do a full-blown locker build, and it does have the very small niche of making it so Trickster and Huntress can reload their weapons quicker when they search a locker. Which, you know, that's a neat interaction, but otherwise it's kind of a joke perk and a bit of a gimmick. It's not... It is bad, right? It is bad, but it's funny, right? You can give it a pass. Speaking of funny and bad perks, though, we move on to their third perk, that being Mad Grit, with a description reading as such. Whenever you are carrying a survivor, Mad Grit activates, removes the cooldown of missed basic attacks, and pauses the wiggle progression of the carried survivor for 2, 3 or 4 seconds, depending on the perk level, each time you successfully hit another survivor. With flavor text reading, "There's no getting out of this now, we're too good at it." Another quote from the Legion. This perk is the joke perk of all joke perks, right? Survivor on your shoulder and you just swing over and over and over. It's a funny perk, right? It's funny to see the killer with a survivor on their back just swinging wildly like some sort of rabid creature. I mean, even I used it in the pig video, where in the second game I used like a, you know, hold them on my shoulder / build, and that game ended in like 7 minutes. Like, I ended that game really, really quickly. Who knew this build could actually be worth something? But again, Mad Grit is a joke perk. It's not competitively viable. But if you combined Mad Grit with, say, Awakened Awareness, the perk from Wesker, where you see auras of survivors whilst carrying them, Brutal Strength, like, you can have some fun. You're right, it's a fun perk, and I can't really hate it, even if it is, by technical definition, bad. But with the perks discussed, I'd like to move on to their base design, as well as my favourite and least favourite cosmetics. Now, seeing as the Legion are a group of 4 people, that results in there being, a few designs to consider. However, for my sanity, when it comes to base designs, I'm only going to be considering the literal 2 designs you get when you buy the Legion. The one of Frank and the one of Susie. And in regards to Frank, it's pretty bog standard. It's really, really standard. It's a dude in like dirty trousers, dirty hoodie with bandaged hands and, some dried blood on him. Obviously the key, imagery thing for them is their mask, which is, very reminiscent of, say, masks you'd see in the Purge films. Their weapon is a little hunting knife. Their design is very, very basic, even more basic than some of the starting killers, like Trapper and Wraith and stuff. And, as a base design, I don't really like them. However, speaking of Susie as well, before I move on, Susie's design is very similar, but woman, right? Her design is damn near the same, but it's got a female body figure instead. She has dirty trousers, she has a dirty hoodie, she has a dirty mask, and it's the same mask as Frank. The base design is boring, but that's because it's a canvas. They are a character with a lot of skins, and that's because their design lends well to skins, because you literally have a blank canvas to make whatever the hell you want. You put them in any outfit, no matter what outfit it may be, and you give them a knife. That's pretty simple, and they've done a lot with it. And speaking of, we move on to my favourite and least favourite cosmetics. Now, for those that need a refresher, or if it is your first time viewing, the way I rank my favourite and least favourites, when it comes to least favourites, I'm not allowed to pick anything below a very rare, because if I could, I'd just pick some shitty yellow recolor and call it a day, which is boring. And when it comes to favourites, I am allowed to pick anything, because sometimes the blue rarity skins are the best ones, though that's not the case this time. But moving forward, speaking of my least favourite, we have Slam Dunk. Yeah, this skin doesn't do anything. It is, I think, Frank or Joey, one of the two. I'm not sure which one. I think it's Frank, because, he had a basketball career. Or did he have a basketball career? I think that's mentioned in his lore. Either way, this skin's just kind of boring. It's a dude in a basketball jersey and shorts and the hoodie. It's too similar to the base design to really do anything interesting for me. And as I've said before, I already don't really like the base design too much. So the mask isn't even interesting to make up for it either. So yeah, this is just a boring skin. Abhorrently boring. It's very close to the original design, which is already boring as is. And yeah, it does not do absolutely anything for me whatsoever. They have a lot of good skins, and this just so happens to be one of the bad ones. But with that said, we move on to my favourite skin. Said favourite skin, as I'm sure you can notice from the background gameplay footage that has been going on presumably at this time, is all of them the Lost Mascot skins. These are based off of a thing from Silent Hill 3, I believe. I have never played Silent Hill in my life, none of them. I want to play Silent Hill 2's remake, because, it's the new one. Ooh, fancy shiny colours, or fancy shiny graphics, But these skins are too funny to me. They're too funny. All of them. I'm only going to show Frank's one, because it's the one that I own, because it's a pink bunny. That's the funniest one. It's the pink colour. Not to shame anyone whose favourite colour is pink, but a pink bunny is funnier than a blue one, right? These skins are just really hilarious to me. They're creepy and funny at the exact same time. It's, a mascot costume with a big ass, pink bunny head with blood smeared all over the mouth. The knife is like a wooden splinter, broken and stuff. It's just a really funny skin to me, but it's also creepy at the same time. It plays into that uncanny valley aspect that series like Five Nights at Freddy's originally did. I say originally because they don't really do that anymore, but anyways, it's not about Five Nights at Freddy's. This skin is really good. It's really funny. It's equally creepy at the same time. I get funny enjoyment out of it. People might find it creepy because of the mascot costume aspect, and whenever I use this skin, I usually like to lean into doing jump scare builds, because It's terrifying to see this giant pink bunny sprinting at you without any notification at like 100 miles an hour. It's just a fantastic skin, and I love it with all of my heart. But with all of that said, we've come to the end of the video, and I believe in terms of recording, this is my longest one yet. Audio-wise, not gameplay-wise. I don't know what my longest one is, actually. But anyways, I hope you have enjoyed my rambles as always. I've noticed that the videos are getting, or this channel in general is getting more traction, which is always good to see. Still boggles my mind that the pig video has almost like 400 views. Like, why the pig? I'm going to keep saying it. Why the pig? How? Why her? But no shade to the pig, of course. But anyways, I hope you have a good evening, afternoon, morning. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. And I shall see you in the next video, where we cover none other than the plague.